Hello again, I am back with Archie. It is me, and we are today going to talk about ranking all the deaths from Final Destination 2. I hit my keyword again. I think I did that last time. Doesn't matter, we're going in. And because there are so many deaths in this film, it's not going to be as in detail as the last one because I don't have time to go over 5 minutes for 8 kills because that's just a long video and no one's going to watch that. So, in 8th place, Clear Rivers, because you can't take one of the main two characters from the first film, the only survivor that is in this film, and then just kill her off in an explosion. That's so boring. Particularly when this character was in a safe room for most of the in-between time between the first and second film, so that she couldn't be killed by anything. If Death wanted her dead, then he could have blown up that whole building in some way. So it just didn't make sense that a way that she died was a way that she could have in theory died in that safe building. I just don't like it. I felt it was very underwhelming, and I love Ali Larter. She was great in Heroes. She was great in this. She's great in other things. She didn't deserve that. She didn't deserve that. And in 7th place, we have Eugene. And again, similarly, it was an explosion. It's not that exciting. I think he's above her because he wasn't a recurring character and so didn't really deserve a better death than that. Also, it was kind of interesting because at least his part of the death was kind of what caused it almost. He had more of a setup to it, whereas Clear just didn't have a clue. But also, it was still just an explosion, and so it just wasn't that exciting, to be honest, and so I can't really put him any higher. I realised I was totally wrong. There are 9, well technically there's 11 deaths, but we're putting 3 together, and so this is 7th place. So imagine the first one was, Claire was 9, Eugene was 8, and this is 7th, and it's going to be the 3 of them in that car after the premonition. I'm reading their names here because I didn't learn them. I don't know if their names even get said, but it's Shana, Frankie, and Dano. But to be honest, I do quite like these deaths. I think that the quality of the deaths in this film are high, and the only reason that this isn't higher is because purely I like all the other deaths more. But this, and I suppose technically the Final Destination, are the only 2 films in which people die after the premonition from something similar but not the exact same. So in the first one, people get on the plane anyway. Third one, people get on the roller coaster anyway. I don't think anyone dies in the 5th one anyway. I mean, obviously the bridge still collapses, but you know, none of the main characters. But in this one, although they don't drive into the car crash accident, the car still gets hit, and so that I just thought was a very interesting way of killing off 3 characters that could have potentially been main characters in this film but just weren't. But that is why they come in at 7th. Also, just the fact that it's, I mean, similarly, it's an explosion and it's not violent or anything. It's just like a boom and they're gone type thing. I don't know. But yes, I thought I like the way that they took the initial accident but changed it slightly so that it still fit the way that these characters die, but it wasn't directly just they're dumb, they walk into this accident regardless, you know? And so coming in 6th place, and I really had to debate this one, because I really like the death, but it has to be spike through the head, now she's dead. So we have Cat sat in a car. She's just crashed it. They all survived that though, which was surprising, but it is what sent Eugene to the hospital. And I really do like the kill. I think it's quick and it's shocking in image, and the spike through the head is gross to see, but the only reason that it's this low in the list, because pure visually it would be near the top, is because you could see it coming. You knew it was going to happen, because she was stuck in a car with a metal spike right behind her head. And you were like, well, of course, I don't know how she's going to end up with her head through it, but it's gonna happen. She's going to end up with her head through it. That's how she dies. And then of course, that's how she dies. I really like the surprise, the just airbag boom, but beyond that, and I like the gore, as I said, I like the visual, but the surprise again wasn't there. It was the most obvious one in the film, and I do like the fact that it wasn't trying to be more than what it was, whereas a lot of the deaths in this franchise, particularly in the later films, I think become too much, too elaborate almost, that they're trying to be really clever and then it turns out to be not that clever. But I still enjoyed this death. It just has to go down on the list. And so, coming in 5th place, we have Brian, whose barbecue explodes. And this death is only this high on the list because it's a brilliant way to comedically but shockingly end this film. It's just surprising, but you also low-key know it's gonna happen because you're like, this is ending too happy, and the first film ended with a surprise death, kinda, so this one will too. And yeah, it did. And it was the moment of realization between the two main characters going, uh-oh, kaboom, and then the arm, I believe it's an arm, lands on the mum's dinner plate. It's just a funny death. It doesn't really add much to the film other than a bit of a surprising, shocking, funny ending. It highlighted the comedy of this film because as much as it is a horror film and it's a bunch of people dying, it's also slightly comical in that it's unreal situations that are leading to these deaths sometimes. It's a build-up of things, and yeah, it's just a lot. But yeah, I think it was a great addition to the film, and had it ended before that point, it just wouldn't have been quite the same. And so, moving on, coming in 4th place, we have Rory, whose battle with a fence ended in pieces. And so this death makes it on this position in the list because it is a great death. It just is so seamlessly led from one thing to another. It's one of those where someone's just died, so you're not expecting another death to come so soon, yet when she dies, she drops her cigarette, it lights this line of fuel, it explodes, sends a fence, which I'm confused on how that happened, but it sent a fence flying, and it just chops this guy in 3 or 4. 3, unless you count the part of his arm that just was detached. I suppose 4, but it was just a very quick again, but this time without being obvious as to what was going to happen. Quick, surprising, shocking, sudden, very nice. And so that brings us to our top 3, and I have to say, I'm really struggling to pick. I really don't know. Now, of course, one of them was in my top 5, and the other 2 were not, and that makes me want to put it at number 1 place because I feel like that makes sense, but at the same time, if I'm isolating them into just the movie itself, although if you've watched the other video, you'll know that one of them has a very personal impact on me. The other 2 are still very, very cool or well thought out or gross moments in this film, and I can't just disregard that upon thinking about it. Well, in 3rd place, I have decided to put Evan, whose interaction with a fire escape ladder did not end how he first saw it. And yes, he is the first to die, other than the people in the car, in this film. And so the only reason he's not higher on the list is because he didn't really know it was coming. And so there isn't that air of suspense there. The audience know something's going to happen because they know the theme of this film, but they do not know, he does not know rather, something bad is going to happen to him until it already starts. So first of all, we get him putting his hand in the sink with that grinder thing, I don't know, We don't have those in Scotland, but yeah. And you're like, oh, he's gonna lose a finger, he's gonna lose a hand, but you're also thinking like, that's horrible. But how is he going to die from that? Like, you would lose your hand, but then he would just phone someone in the hospital, the ambulance, be like, come get me, you know, I've lost a hand. And then his kitchen starts catching fire, and you're like, uh-oh, okay, this makes more sense. So maybe he's gonna be stuck, and then fire, and he burns, or like he'll lose his hand and then he burns, and you're like, oh goodness, what's gonna happen? But then it's neither of those things. He gets his hand out, he's all good. He escapes his house, he's all good. He climbs down the fire ladder. Well, he was, so he didn't have the softest dismount, but you know, he hits the ground, and you're like, cool, he's good. And then the ladder falls, and you're like, oh, this is it. And then it stops, and you're like, oh, this was not it. And then it falls again, and you're like, this is it. And let me tell you, it was it. It was gross. It's just it's a moment that you're shocked about, surprised about. I'm curious to know the science of it, because it was big enough, like it would have hit his skull, but you know, it was just a shocking moment. It was very satisfying as a first proper death scene in the film. They had a nice build to it. It was just well done, and it was a good moment in the film. So, do I stick to my original opinion, and do I go for Tim, who gets flattened by the pane of glass, for my number one? Or do I change things up and his mother can take top position? Well, I really still am struggling.
Because the whole all-time thing implies what has been my favourite for the majority of my life, but then in now this moment of my life, if I were to rewatch the film, the death that has the most impact to me now is different to what it did many years ago and for many years. And so,
in number 2, we have Tim getting crushed by the pane of glass. As I said, it's different, my opinion now, to what it was then, and I'm ranking the best to, or the worst to best. Not my favourite, which is similar, but there is technical differences here. Now, I love both of the 2 death scenes coming up, the Tim one and his mum, but this death, Tim's death, although it was great, wasn't so impactful on a general sense. Now, of course, he gets crushed by the glass, and that's horrible, and that image where his body turns from solid to liquid and just smush will always make me shiver a little bit. But upon watching it a few times, and upon doing the analysis for the first film and watching that scene slowly, it is almost comical now, as someone who isn't really bothered by gore, to watch the body kind of go from human to definitely a dummy. It is still a very gross death, and the change between the dentist scene where he was going to suffocate and you think at least they're going to kill this kid in a way that isn't super gross, to then them just being like, you thought, and they just crush him, is horrible. And the fact that they even went as far as they were like, yeah, we don't care that he's a teenager, he's in this film, he's gonna die, that's the point of these films, was also great. But it doesn't play on just a general fear that I have, and I know a lot of other people probably also have, which is elevators. And so, coming in at number 1 is his mother, Nora, who gets decapitated by getting stuck half in and half out of an elevator as it moves. Now, I'm sure you do it, I'm sure a lot of other people do it, and probably in part because of the exact scene I'm about to talk about. Whenever you're getting in an elevator and the door starts closing, those people that are like, I'll stop it. You're crazy. What are you doing? No, don't do it. Don't do it. Just be like, it's not meant to be. I'll get the next one, you know? Or if you're inside it, I'll get off at the next stop. I'm not the one to just stop it, because, honey, if that thing closes and my arm's still out there, not playing. And I know they're designed so that they don't just shut or they don't just start moving, but technology fails people, and I ain't playing those games. Are there stairs? I'll take the stairs. But yes, It's the build up of being told to avoid hands. She knows that there's something, or avoid hooks, and she knows something's going on, and at this point they've worked out that their lives are in danger. And so there's that fear, that panic, that desperation to survive. But this character has also kind of given up. Her son just died, so she's heartbroken. She doesn't know if she even wants to live anymore, and then instantly is the next person to get put into this life or death situation. And you see the change. You see the panic. She's suffering, she's scared, and she doesn't want to die. You see that moment right at the end. I think it's her last words is, "I don't want to die," as she is stuck with her head in the elevator and the rest of her body out with, I think it's clear, and the main character, who I can't remember off the top of my head now because I'm too busy thinking about elevators, trying to pull her out like that was going to do anything, like their strength was going to pull an elevator down. They just didn't know what to do because at that point it was too late. But it's just the idea, this is one of the deaths where it was, she was trapped. It wasn't that she was like, what's going to happen, what's going to happen. She had her head stuck, and it was trying real hard to keep that elevator moving. She knew she was in trouble, and it wasn't just like a, how do I get out of this? She was just stuck. She panics, she screams, she just starts bleeding from the mouth, and then eventually the elevator goes, I'm gonna win this one, and off goes her head. Shocking stuff. But yes, it takes my number one place because, as this film has done with log trucks, it has also done with elevators, and it just instills that little bit of fear into you that makes you go, yeah, I'm gonna be careful with this one. You're always a bit more cautious now. You have the same with the escalator. Anytime I'm like, oop, there could be broken gears under there, I'm like, I'll take the stairs. But yes, it plays on one of those fears that everyone has, but it's very irrational. Why are you scared of elevators? Why aren't you scared of... It's like that statistic, you're more likely to die in a car crash than about 100 other things, yet we fear those 100 other things way more. And it plays on that so well. And it's just such a scary, satisfying, thrilling, chill-inducing. Can you see it? My arm hairs be sticking up. And so are Archie's. Because poor Nora lost her head to an elevator. Yeah. Oh, that's a cute dog. What's it eating? Anyway, that's why Nora, for now, and possibly now forever, will take the number one spot. Sure, that death at the time didn't have such an emotional effect on me. It didn't cause me to not be able to sleep at night. But it has every day of my life since just made me go, elevator, oop, gotta make sure I don't get caught in the doors. That would be horrible. It's like falling off a building or something. You just have an undefined amount of time before you know it goes wrong. But with the elevator thing, if you got stuck halfway, you're like, okay, sure, the doors have not worked properly, but maybe when it gets caught going up, it'll stop, maybe. You won't know until it either does or doesn't, and then it's too late. But that is all I will say for this film. And so, thank you for watching myself and Archie talk about more deaths in films, because Archie, you haven't even seen the Final Destination films. I've not watched them since we became friends, so actually these are just my opinions and not Archie's. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed that video. Again, if you agree or disagree with my order or want to tell me your own opinions, then hit me with them. I want to hear them, because you know what? This is completely subjective stuff, particularly because a lot of my opinions are based on years of suffering these films have caused, mental anguish that these films have caused on me since watching whatever scenes I'm talking about. But there you have it. You have watched Horror and I, my ranking of the deaths in Final Destination 2. Hope you have a lovely week. I don't say that. I still haven't thought of an outro. Maybe I did think of one last time. I can't remember. professionalism. Stay tuned. And it's gone. Got my comfy trousers on. If you watch my vlog, that'll make sense. Uh-oh, I hadn't connected the mic right. It's connected now. This top is gluten-free, like me, baby. And I'm back with your boy, Archie. Oh no, okay, we're fine. Mate, you don't need to slap me in the eye, though. Did I even hit record? Hope so. Yeah, I did. Okay, right. Now to get some food. Okay, goodbye.